morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Sir Meerkat, and welcome back to the Moto Meerkat channel. Now, obviously, Formula 1 is a very fast-paced sport, not only on track, but also in its technological innovations. Teams continue to upgrade their cars throughout the season to try and extract those few extra tenths that could mean the difference between pole and, like, 15th, well, at the Sakhir Grand Prix maybe. But once that season is over, a new car is then created for the following year. But what happens to those cars when they're no longer needed? Some are obviously sent to museums where their legacy and prowess can then be celebrated for years to come in the memory of us fans, but others get to keep on racing, and you may be wondering which madmen would want to, or even be able to, continue racing these old Formula cars. And this is exactly what I will be explaining today in my video all about Boss GP. Basically, Boss GP is just a completely f***ing mental championship. Just take a look at this crash between a Benetton B197 and a Champ car. Holy smokes, that was a big one! Now, the series first came to my attention when my good friend, Mr. Josh Revel, brought it up in a video all about a certain Mahavir Raghunathan. But we'll get on to him in a bit. We'll start this story much further back. So let's take a look, shall we? Now, Boss actually stands for Big Open Single-Seaters, and the championship began in 1995. Now, initially, the series only allowed old Formula 1 cars, and they only raced at tracks across Great Britain. And during this time, between 1995 and 2000, the series' official name was actually Boss Formula and had many different winners, with Nigel Greensall taking the 1997 and 1998 title with his team European Aviation. Now, this team European Aviation was actually owned by Paul Stoddart, the aviation entrepreneur who would go on to be the team boss at Minardi Formula 1 team when he owned them between 2001 and 2005. Now, his investment into and commitment to this series caused its expansion for the 2001 season into Europe, with the series being renamed European Boss, or Euroboss for short. This move to European tracks would attract more investors into the series and open up the grid to many more old Formula cars. It would mainly see grids of around 12 to 15 drivers, but on occasions the grids would be as small as only 5 cars, which is not really great for an up-and-coming series. But Boss would retain the Euroboss name from 2001 all the way until 2009, with plenty of different cars and different drivers competing in the series in that time frame. With even our favourite 61st driver, Mr. Scott Mansell, winning the championship in 2004 at the wheel of the Benetton B197. An absolute stunner, I think we can all agree. And it was actually in that season that Scott Mansell would set the Brands Hatch Indy lap record of 38.032 seconds. That is bloody quick. But after the 2009 Euroboss season, 4 of the influential drivers from the series, including Klaas Zwart, founder of Ascari Cars and, of course, the Ascari Race Resort, split off to create their own championship that would be titled Boss GP. Now, the original series, Euroboss, would continue with a 2010 season. However, as numbers continued to dwindle, the organisers would eventually abandon the season altogether, with 3 races to go, causing a lot of the teams and the drivers to move over from Euroboss to Boss GP. And this new Boss GP series would be split into 3 classes. The Open class, which allowed entries from post-1996 Formula 1 cars, Lotus T125s, Rodin FZEDs, Champ cars, and post-2009 Indy cars. Now, they were also accompanied by the Formula class, which would allow entries from GP2/Formula 2 cars, Auto GP cars, A1 GP cars, Formula Acceleration 1 cars, Super League Formula cars, and Nissan World Series V8 cars. And they would also be joined on the grid by the Prestige Series, which allowed entries from Nissan World V6 cars, and finally Formula 3000 cars. Now, as we know, any of these Formula cars are not exactly cheap cars to run, are they? Hence why a majority of the drivers in Bosch GP are gentleman drivers, which, if you don't know what that means, it basically just means that they're usually older gentlemen that pay their way into a seat that they wouldn't get just out of talent alone. Some of these gentleman drivers include Ricardo Ponzio, who races a Jaguar R3, which competed in the 2002 Formula 1 season, driven by Eddie Irvine and Pedro Della Rosa. And he's also joined on the grid by Ingo Gerstel, who races a Toro Rosso STR1, which competed in the 2006 Formula 1 season, driven by Vitantonio Liuzzi and Scott Speed. Now, Ingo has actually been the most successful Bosch GP driver to date, winning the Open Championship 5 years in a row from 2015 to 2020. But just listen to him absolutely flying down the Kemmel Straight at Spa, and you'll see why I quite like this series. Oh my god, that noise will just never, ever get old, honestly. Gerstel is actually so quick, and as you'll see from that Spa footage, I'll leave the link down in the description, he's quite a few seconds faster than the man on second place on the grid. That's because the rules in Bosch GP are relatively relaxed and allow for him to unleash the full potential of his V10 beast. Gerstel actually told Formula Scout that here, you can do what you want as long as you follow the FIA safety rules. More revs, lighten the car, remove F1 restrictions, and for gentleman drivers down a straight, we need the power. Many really like the technical side, so it's not only for driving, it's the whole feeling of building up the car to driving it. 2 ex-Toro Rosso engineers work on Gerstel's car full time, and when Bosch GP cars are sold, usually associated mechanics and engineers will be included in these deals, because as there are very few people who actually know the inner workings of the car, it's a bit difficult to randomly come across someone else that can work on it just as well. And the fact that these teams also need sort of lower end engineers attracts lots of aspiring Formula 1 engineers who may not have got a chance in sort of Formula 2 or Formula 3 teams, but gives them a proper opportunity to know the inner workings of these older Formula cars, which can then give them the experience to then hopefully move on to these higher tiers of Formula Motorsport in the future. Although there are a large number of gentleman drivers in the Bosch GP grid, due to the relaxed rules of the series, it can actually be quite tempting for an aspiring Formula 1 driver coming up through the feeder series. This is because they run Pirelli tyres, which have a slightly larger operating window than the official F1 and F2 tyres, but they're pretty close, and close enough to be a valid reference tool for them as they move up through the ranks of motorsport. And also the testing restrictions are pretty loose on the series as well, giving these aspiring drivers lots of time in the seat of these Formula cars to build up their experience, their confidence, and get a lot better and faster, and hopefully more easily move onto the top tiers of motorsport. Notable drivers that we've seen on the Bosch GP grid in the past include Rinus VeeKay, who now races in IndyCar, former Minardi driver Tarso Marquez, and of course the man, the myth, the legend Mahavir Raghunathan. And to be fair to Raghunathan, when he raced in the series in 2017, he did actually win the Formula class in an Auto GP car after the 2 championships merged in 2016. Now, I don't know whether to say well done to Mahavir or whether that speaks volumes on the driving standards of Bosch GP, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. But apart from Mahavir, who, as I just said, raced an Auto GP car to victory in the Formula class, most people in that class are actually racing slightly older Formula 2 or GP2 cars. Now, Marco Ghiotto, father of Formula 2 racer Luca Ghiotto, is the perfect example of this. He races Charles Leclerc's championship-winning Dallara GP2 11 car, which he brought directly directly from Prema, and he's used that car to win the Formula class in both 2019 and 2020. But overall, the Bosch GP Championship is actually beginning to move up in the world, to be fair. The series acted as a support race for DTM at the Red Bull Ring in 2018, and also acted as a support race for Formula 1 at the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim in 2018 as well. So as the series begins to get a more global recognition and young drivers begin to be drawn to the series for its testing opportunities, could we possibly see Bosch GP become a mainstay in F1 feeder series in the future? Let me know what you think on the topic down in the comments below. But otherwise, I think that's all from me today, folks. I hope you learned something about the weird, wacky, and seriously expensive race series that is the Bosch GP. If you did, then be sure to drop a like on the video. I do really appreciate it. And also, subscribe to the Moto Meerkat channel while you're at it, because why not? I make loads of motorsport content. Also, if you're part of the Bosch GP media team, I noticed that firstly, you don't have any commentators on your live streams on YouTube, and secondly, your social media game is slightly lacking, so I would be more than happy to offer my services on both of those issues, so be sure to drop me an email with my business email that's down in the description below. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you did really enjoy, and I will see all of you Meerkats later. Goodbye, guys.